So we are live right now. This is probably the second time we've ever done live, so just bear with us with any technical difficulties we have. But I'm saying my buddy, what's up to my buddy Fred? Fred, what's up, man?
Hey Mike, how you doing? I got my
Good.
fingers crossed because of my Wi-Fi sucks today. So if I drop off, like I said earlier, I'll probably try to get on my phone or something.
All right. So for this episode, what we're going to do is really something we've talked about as a series to establish our channel, Silencio Coffee. You know, a lot of people say we're like Black Rifle Coffee, or we're like other channels, and we want to be our own. You know, there's some similarities with other channels, but for ourselves, we don't want to just talk about us and how great we are, but we want to just live it. You know, in this fast-paced modern world that we live in, um, a lot of times we really don't pay attention to things that are really meaningful, and that's what we want to talk about. What's really meaningful in life, and I think it's so important as far as leadership and as far as youth and as far as um, doing things that bring good in the world. And I think Fred is on the same page as me. Um, so for today's show, we want to talk about mentoring and some of the rules that we live by. Some of the things that I learned as a young man and Fred learned, and some of the things that I didn't even have in the household growing up. Things that I said, you know what, for my stepsons, this is what I'd like to see. And how can they establish themselves in a life that's, you know, pretty fast paced. And so for me, you know, I've done a couple episodes on my own show, We Fight Monsters, where I talk about mentoring. And I talk about Telemachus, and I talk about Mentor, who was the mentor to Odysseus and Telemachus. And really this idea of Odysseus going on a journey, and it's metaphorical, right? You can see this idea of Odysseus leaving his wife, going to war or wherever he's going, and having to come back and having to deal with the suitors that are trying to impose their values on his household. And Telemachus, his son, is a steward of his home until his father comes back, and he's just biding his time. So there's a deeper story there, but it really comes down to is how does a young man establish himself in life knowing that his father is away, or that a young man leaves his household, and how does he survive? And, you know, what are the rules that he lives by when he's at work, when he's with his friends, when he's at a bar, when he's at college? So, Fred, any thoughts?
Yeah. So kind of coming off of the last podcast we did when we brought Freddie Jr. on, and we kind of asked him, or you asked him questions about his upbringing and his father as a role model and his thoughts and opinions on that. And I think he spoke well to those questions, and he kind of made me feel reassured myself. Not that it's about me, but that I did a pretty damn good job with him. And I have this kind of list of rules when raising a son, and I don't want to. I just don't want to narrow that to boys. It can be for girls also. Some will be slightly different. And we can go through some of these, but I sent them to you yesterday, Mike, and we kind of talked about, you had a kind of some comments and agenda, and then I showed you my list, and we were kind of like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's go with this. So like you said, this could probably take a few episodes or be a series if we wanted to. Sorry, did you ask I know you asked a question, but did you ask something specific that I didn't want to blow it off?
Mine was, what is your take on it? And I think we're both in agreement. Like, we do care about people. We do care that our children are living their lives. Now, they don't have to go out and deliberately try to change the world. As long as they are a productive citizen, they're not a consumer constantly, that they are out there just living their lives, and they're not making a mess of everybody else's lives. You know, there are people out there. All they want to do is, rob, kill, whatever, destroy. And you just want a child that is out there. Just, they're not causing any mayhem. They're just really existing. You know, they get married, they or have a good job or something. They're not in impact on anyone else, and that we don't have to hear about it. Say, man, you know, and
Right.
I get it, because my dad used to drive his vehicle down the highway, and he'd see a motorcycle that was crashed or a silver truck, and he thought that was probably me, because I was a wild kid. And every time I caused him worry, he said, "Is that Mike? You know, is that Mike?" And I didn't know it till years later. He said he worried all the time about me because I was just a wild person. And so, with my own stepsons, I've tried to shift my focus and my energy into them, and the way I've changed my tone. Um, And so it's really important. When we had Fred's son on, Freddie, I thought Fred did an amazing job. And what I got from Freddie is here's a person who is very mindful. He's very conscious of his place in society, that his dad, who gave him these life lessons, um, Fred did impart his life lessons onto his son Freddie, and I thought this is a stand-up young man. You know, he's dabbled in some of the things his dad likes, like hunting and shooting, but he's also a productive person. He's not a mooch. He's not a parasite. He's not out there, and that's really where Fred and I are coming from, which is, you know, the life lessons that Fred gives. Did it resonate with his son? And it appeared to be that, you know. But there are some
Yeah.
lessons that, yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
Oh no, I was gonna say, yeah, he definitely like walks the walk and
Yeah,
lives the life. Yeah, like he surprises me every day. Some of the things I hear him say and acts that he does. Um, what was I gonna? I was kind of looking at your lists here, and I kind of wanted to touch on
yeah,
some of that stuff. But
yeah,
basically, I guess I don't want to say the bottom line because it's not just the bottom line, but the end state for me was raising boy or girl to become a productive member of society, like you said, not a mooch, not a slouch, not like a freeloader who lives off the government or whatever. Somebody that's
yeah,
productive, hardworking or not. I mean, if they're a white collar person, then hey, so be it. We need those, right? We need those business people that you know their strong suits are in the office, in the corporate world, in the boardrooms, right? That's kind of not my background, but I know it's important. Like my son, I told you about that agreement his mom had with him. He wanted to go
mhm,
right into the military. His mom said, "No, you can't join the military until you get a college degree, a bachelor's degree, 4 years." So he was like, "Yep, okay, I'll do that." And he won a scholarship, an ROTC scholarship. Decided he didn't want to do ROTC after trying it for a year, but he did. Um, it's funny. He learned how to make homebrew, how to make beer in his fraternity, and that became a valuable skill for him. That
yeah,
became a living for him because that's what he does now. He's one of the brewers at one of the oldest brewery in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he also does some marketing for them, which is that business side that I was talking about a little while ago. That was his major, was marketing and business. But even with my daughter, man, making sure that they're respectful of others, making sure that they're hard workers. I try to make them crack the books. I mean, I wasn't the best student. My daughter was a pretty good student. My son was a really good student, especially in college. And now they're kind of off doing their own thing. They're
mhm,
out of the nest, empty nester. So thank goodness for that. I've been blessed that they're healthy and they, live. I don't want to say prosperous because they're just starting out. They're not prosperous
right.
yet, but spiritually prosperous, and they're just off to a good start, and I'm happy about that. Um, what more can you ask for as a parent?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, like life gets in the way. I've got a stepson that lives with me now, and there was a rule to live by that you had said that when you marry someone, right, you're marrying their family, and I would agree. And
yeah,
that's why we're having the issue with my stepson living with us is that he didn't choose wisely. Life happens, but my grandson is the most amazing blessing in my life of anything next to my wife. He's awesome. I love him to death. And we're trying to get my stepson established so he can find his own way. It is kind of hard. And when you think about that, so when I get back to, Odysseus, really, and the idea of mentor, I talk about what's the difference between a mentor and a coach or a leader or anything. And a mentor is someone who's really supposed to be quite wise. They're a person who dispenses advice, and they could dispense it to anyone, whether it's a father or son or business leaders. They're someone who has probably done a lot in their life, and they are a trusted advisor, a friend, a teacher, and really, at the end of the day, they are a very wise person. So this is what you want to seek out in life. And when I say to people, um, seek out mentors. A lot of children don't want to get advice from their parents. Hopefully, they do. On some important things, they will. They'll say, "Hey, Dad or Mom, can I talk to you about something?" And I'll see that where Jacob will come to me and he asks my advice, like he did about the car. He got in that traffic accident a week ago, totaled his car, broke the axle in the back, went across all 4 lanes of the 66, and I had to go up there at 12:30 at night, pick him up. Then I had to go and negotiate a car deal the next morning. I was exhausted, but you do these things. But he asked me. They gave him some money for his car, and it was a sizable amount. And he said, "What do I do?" And he said, "Do I invest it?" So he's coming to me for advice, and these are the things that are very important. And again, when you look at millennia ago, you had households, and even in Europe, in a lot of places, people live at home until they're fully established and they leave their family. In America, there's so much wealth. A lot of people get up 18, 19, they're gone, and you don't see them. And back in the day, you lived very closely together. And then it was really the Industrial Revolution, right? It created jobs in the inner city, and people left. They left the farmlands, they left their villages, they left their towns to go and find jobs in the factories. And that shifted everything in the 1860s, 70s, 80s. And so you had independence. So it was kind of sad in a way. You had wealth, but at the same time, you were fragmented with families. And so where did the youth go, And today in America, we have so much wealth, and I'm glad for capitalism, but at the same time, a lot of times the kids are getting their advice from their friends or on TikTok or Instagram. They're watching videos versus coming and talking to their parents. And I'm not saying that I'm always going to be there for them. I hope that, and I've said it many times before, Mom and I are going to die. You need to be able to be resilient and self-sufficient and those kinds of things. And so I had talked to Fred about that, and he came up with these rules, and I came up with some rules. So we'll go over a couple of them today, and I'll ask Fred about his because he had some interesting ones. But that's kind of really where our show is today, is really trying to dispense our advice to other people, and hopefully they see it as practical and usable, for everyday life, and not just once a year, but something they can always think about and use.
Oh,
any thoughts, Fred?
No,
it wasn't a delay, man. I just gave you a long pause.
There was an awkward silence there. I was like, did I miss something?
Probably.
No, parenting, you hit a good topic there when you talked about kids learning on the internet, on TikTok and videos instead of talking to their parents. And I started jotting some stuff down, and parenting is hard now, I think, because I notice younger people want to be more like a friend to their kids than a parent. And they think that taking the softer approach and being friends and let's talk about it or whatever, versus getting in their ass and being stern and providing punishment if necessary. Some of the things that we were kind of brought up with. Definitely, I don't think the internet is a good place. I'm sure there's great resources out there, websites and information, and there's probably like YouTube channels about parenting advice and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. It's like every other kind of advice out on the internet nowadays, right? Shooting and tactics and making coffee and all this right. Different advice that, everybody's got their opinions and the way they like things. But I would say that one of the things that you have to tell yourself, and I found myself telling myself this, as well as my wife, because my wife was a little on the softer side, right? She's a mom. You're not their friends. You're not there to be their friends, right? If they screw up, you're there to put a foot in their ass and show them the path to the right way. You're a parent first, right? You can, sing kumbaya and all that stuff later, but like if they mess up, they need to be punished or they need to be reprimanded. And, just like if they did something well, if they do something well, that it needs to be praised, it needs to be brought to the forefront. We kind of talked about growth mindset versus others and how you approach that, like praising the process. Hey, good job. You studied your ass off and it paid off. Good job getting an A on that exam. But that's a big one that I'm a firm believer in, is you can't be their friend. You're there to be their parent first. You know what I'm saying? Maybe when they're adults, the relationship I have with my kids now as adults is a little different, obviously, because they're adults. Like my son and I will go hunt, or my daughter will come. We'll go eat at a restaurant or something like that, and we'll have adult discussions, which is pretty cool with my kids. It's a little weird, but like I'm getting used to it now. Um, but yeah, that was a big one. Did you want me to talk about some of that stuff on the list,
Yeah, let's go over that
or were
list, and
you
I'll just
gonna?
no, I'm gonna ask you a question. So, but I'll just make
Oh,
one
go
point
ahead.
here. For me, my dad, I agree with you 100%, Fred. You're not their buddy. A lot of parents do that. You are their parent.
Yeah.
You could be their buddy after they graduate, after they leave the house,
Yep.
after they've kind of figured out a little bit of life. But you're not their pal, and that's the easy way, and that's just cheating them. My dad, in a lot of ways, was faulty, and yeah, as me as a man, as a parent, I probably suck at a lot of things. My dad was like, "Don't do that," and I'd say, "Why?" Well, because I said so. Well, I would like an in-depth answer. If I were to go back and say, "Pop, why can't you explain to me in a very detailed way?" Because it was my dad's generation, because I said so. But my dad was great in a lot of ways that he showed by action that he meant what he said and that there were lessons to be learned by just observing him. Like hard work. My dad always imparted on us that hard work was very important, but also to be employed or to have income in some way. Didn't mean you have to work hard, because if you had income from investing, that's great. But he just wanted me to be a valuable person, not a slouch. Some things I had learned was, for me, I said, just because you spill blood with someone doesn't mean that you're bros forever. Because I got in a lot of hot water and I did a lot of things with people that were quite violent, quite bad, and they're not my friends anymore. I don't see them. Some guys are in prison now. Some guys will never talk to you for the rest of my life. And it's sad because you believe in some silly romantic way that this is, bros, man. We're a gang. We're a brotherhood. No, it's not reality at all, man. People will betray you. They will stab you in the back. They will not hold to the promises that you guys kept. So all these ideas that somehow just because you spilt blood, whether it's in war or anything, doesn't mean squat. You served on a fire team or you served somewhere in a unit, um, and that's something we can talk about. But I want to get to Fred's list, and one of he had many, but let's go down this list, and I thought they were quite good. Said, so never shake a man's hand sitting down. Fred, what did you mean by that, man? I would have never thought about that, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that one gets harder to sustain as you get older and
Yeah,
you get broke. When you get comfortable and you're like, oh man, I got to get up real quick. No, so
yeah,
like if I'm sitting at in a meeting or just casual conversation in an office with a couple of work people, and then somebody I haven't seen in a long time comes in. It's like, hey, buddy, what's going on? Or Bob, Joe, whatever. Hey, how you doing? Like, I don't sit down and shake their hand while they're
yeah,
standing there and they walk in. Like, I'll stand up and be a gentleman and maybe even give a hug, right? A handshake followed by a hug, or vice versa, depending on what everybody likes doing. But I think it shows respect. Doesn't matter who the person is, if it's a friend, if it's a colleague, a business partner, an old relative, or whoever. You should definitely get on your feet and stand. Now, there's people that are handicapped that they probably can't do that, and it's probably a good idea that they don't, right? So I don't mean that. I just mean if you're physically able
yeah,
and you're meeting somebody the first time, especially, right? First impressions are lasting. You need to get up on your feet and shake their hand, and it needs to be, that goes to number 10, right? It needs to be a firm
yeah,
handshake, like
yeah.
a nice firm handshake, not a death squeeze. Not trying to break bones in their hand, and look them in the eye and say, hey, how you doing? Good to meet you. I'm Fred, or whatever the situation calls for.
I agree with you. I think shaking a man's hand firmly, looking in their eyes, standing up, it shows respect. It shows dignity. It shows that there's a seriousness to the situation, even if it's just to meet and greet someone for the first time, or if you've known someone for 30 years, to shake their hand or give them a big hug and a handshake. Say, hey, what's up, man? I think that's a great one. You know, you had one that I liked, and I have my own thoughts on it, but it says the man that can cook is the closest thing to a king. Now, I don't know what you meant by it, but I knew that my dad had told me you need to know how to make some things, at least three. That says that's a good chili,
Yeah.
that's a good steak, right? And you need to make a good stew. So something, but it needs to be a hearty meal. It needs to be something that's going to, fill someone up, and it's just a simple thing. It's not difficult to make, but you can get beans and all the different meats in there, and you make a nice chili with rice if you want to put rice in there. But you need to have something like a lasagna, something that's filling on a hot day, or a cold day, but you come in after a long motorcycle ride or you're out in the snow shoveling, but something that is hearty. I mean, what are your thoughts, Fred? What did you mean by yours?
So, yep. So I actually edited that one. I got that one from someone else a long time ago. I'm trying to find that because I'm going to tell you what the original, how it read. What number was that?
That was number 3.
Oh, that's why I was looking near the bottom. I thought it was at the bottom. So I put the man that can cook is the closest thing to a king. The original one was a man that can work or grill. It had to do with outdoor grilling because that's kind of a manly thing, right? A man that can cook on a grill is the closest thing to a king. So I modified that because I think it depends. Some families are different cultures. Like Southern cultures are more outdoor grilling and stuff. I mean, everybody does it, but like where I came from a very Italian American traditional family, and all the grandmas and the moms and the aunts do most of the cooking, but the men all know how to cook where I come from, and they cook very well. And very classic Italian restaurants are run by men, both in the front of the house and the back of the house, men servers as well as men in the kitchen cooking. Now that's kind of like an older cultural thing, but like that's kind of how I grew up. And my dad made my mom used to work a lot. Both my parents worked, but my dad did most of the cooking for me and my brother and sister when we were little, growing up. So I guess that's kind of when I picked up how I was raised. But if you know, and it's kind of like you said, if you know how to cook a few basic things, man, that's that's going to carry you on for forever for your life. Like especially a few really good recipes like that last forever, and those also create memories that you'll cherish for a long time with your family. Especially the chili one. I like that one. That was a good one.
Well, but see, you worked as a cook, so and a lot of young men, I mean, because they're trying to establish themselves, they just do hot dogs or they do, a tortilla with some cheese in it in the microwave, and that's all they can do because it's just beans and rice. I mean, when I was growing up, it was the same meal. It was a turkey loaf that I would, process meat. I would slice that, and I would do rice. That was it. Or I would do rice and beans, and eventually, you get established and you buy your first home, your first car, and everything else. When you're starting out, it's kind of hard, but it's good as a young man is if you are a value. You come in there, and it's kind of like what's that old story of stone soup? Remember that, where everybody in the village brought carrots and stone. One guy had the stones, but this idea of potatoes and everything else that you bring into it.
And another kind of added value to that, a young man, or any man really that can cook well, that knows his way around the kitchen. It's also a help with the ladies. Like the ladies like that. Like
it is.
Let's be honest.
Yes, it is. It's true. You don't want to be just the guy that your spouse is providing for you and cooking for you all the time. Sometimes it's good to come in, and I love to cook. I don't always get a chance because our kitchen is not the biggest. It's bigger than some, but I just don't have any. My wife and I are all shoulder to shoulder. So I will help her at the sink and I'll peel potatoes and I'll help, but I really don't get to cook. I haven't cooked in many, many years. I would love to be able to sit down and actually cook and make some pastries or something while she's cooking. So, but it is important to do that. It's important to be someone who pitches in and, even if it's to know how to carve a turkey, young men should know how to do that. You need to know how to carve a turkey. You need to know how to peel vegetables and prepare certain basic meals. That makes you very valuable, whether it's in your family, with your wife, or with your team.
Yeah, I was looking through your list that you showed me, and that was an interesting one that jumped on me there. Number 7, carve a turkey. That was pretty cool. And then after that is light a grill, which that kind of ties into what I was just talking about, the grill thing. So
Dude, yeah, you need to, because there are a lot of people that don't know, and they set themselves on fire. It's a danger. You can't just throw a match on a grill that you sprayed, right, with a lot of lighter fluid. So it seems so simple and so basic and rudimentary, but a lot of people don't even have any clue how to do that. And that goes to the other one I had, which is jumpstart a car. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So yeah, lighten the grill, very important.
As we go through these lists, your list and mine, yours are more life skills,
Yeah,
which are awesome because most young people, men included, can't do a lot of these, right?
right.
Like you always hear, see memes and stuff on social media kind of joking around about you want to end Gen X. I'm sorry, you want to end Gen Z, like, and it shows the floor of a 72 model car with like the clutch, the brake pedal, and the gas, and the
Yeah,
parking brake on the floor, emergency brake. Like it's like most younger people don't know how to drive stick shift or or a
no,
standard transmission. Which I taught my son that when he was very young how to drive my truck. My other truck used to be on standard. So, but
yeah.
those little life things that kind of go away with modern conveniences, and a lot of those are on your list, which are very cool, like the basic tools and painting and like
Well,
I
yeah. I
like
mean,
it.
tie a knot, right, like a bowline or
Yep.
a square knot. A lot of people don't have any clue. I used to work at a furniture shop. I had my own, right. Eventually, ended up buying it, but we would tie everything down. And everywhere I go, I know how to tie knots, and people are shocked by that. You see people tying these loads down at Lowe's or Home Depot, and you're driving behind these vehicles, like, holy cow, that thing is going to come off. That load is going to drop on the freeway, and you need to know how to do it. I mean, I used to tie, bookcases were 7 feet tall, put them on top of a vehicle like an El Camino, and it's like 11 feet tall. And these things are blowing in the wind, wrapped in a tarp in a storm, in a rain. And man, and these things would show up at someone's house. I would tie that thing down so well, it would never even move. Just one rope. I mean, I wasn't using tie downs, just one rope. And I would get that load to
Yeah.
a customer's house, and it was never wet. It was never damaged. You really need to know how to do something so secure that you can drive 80 miles an hour like we did with an El Camino, and you have confidence that you can tie a bow line or a square knot or a taut line or some type of figure eight.
that that very skill you're talking about is
Yeah.
another one that fell by the wayside because of modern conveniences like
Yep.
bungee cords and cargo
Yep.
straps, ratchet
Cargo
straps.
straps.
Now you
Yeah.
can go buy a three pack of ratchet straps for $8.
Yeah.
Chinese ratchet straps, and you don't have to tie a knot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Young
funny
men
because you
don't
made
have
me
any
think
clue.
of my dad when I was a kid. We used to go cut down our Christmas tree every year. We tag it in the fall and then we cut it down. And then watching that man with the hemp rope tie that thing down to the top of his car, like, holy cow, it was like a Spider-Man, like the webbing that he
Yeah.
laid on that thing. It was pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. My dad was in the Navy, so he knew how to tie all those things, because that's what you do when you're on a ship. But
Yeah.
one of the rules I had was beware when your friends need to speak to you at night. And this goes back to my buddy I've known 40 years, and he's a good friend of mine, retired, running one of the main branches in California. But that guy showed up at night and banged on my window. And I knew we were going to go break into a restaurant. I knew that because that's what he wanted to talk about. So he shows up and he says, hey, man, and I'm like, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, this dude got in so much trouble. And he went to law enforcement, which is kind of funny because the guys usually best in law enforcement are usually pretty bad troublemakers in
Oh
their
yeah.
teens, right? And this dude got in so much. I mean, he used to rob people. He was bad, man. I should call him up and say, hey, do you remember? But he woke me up in the middle of the night and said, hey, man, we're going to get in this car. We're going to go steal something. And we ended up breaking into this fast food restaurant. I won't name the one or where. And then we ended up getting some goods. And I'm like, man, if I caught my
Wow.
kid doing that, I'd whip him. But I should call him up and say, dude, do you remember the trouble you used to get me into? But the thing is, also could be more nefarious. I've also had friends that say, hey, I want to do something. It was really something that I'd have to consider, say, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go get vengeance on someone? We're going to go jump someone or whatever it is. So be very mindful to young men. When your friends you think are your friends, they're usually going to get you into some trouble. You think that things are going to go your way, and sometimes they don't. And the police get involved, and your life can take a dark turn. So just be very mindful, young men, when you think your friends are your friends. and it's especially at night. They can tell you in the day, but they want to wait because they want to have that cover darkness as concealment to do whatever they want to do.
It makes
Right?
me think of that joke
Yeah,
about a friend showing up in the middle of the night with a bag of lime and some shovels.
pretty much.
Yeah.
That's exactly that's exactly what I'm talking about. So,
Some would say that's the merits of a good friend is when they show up in the middle of the night and you have some lime and a couple of shovels and they don't ask questions. So
well,
I guess it goes
he's
both ways.
yeah, he's dead now. I'm not going to say his real name, so I'll call him Jimmy. But yeah, he was talking about burying some bodies, and they never found him. And I just remember being at a party, and his brother's eyeballs were like this big, and he says, "Yeah, we got those guys. We buried him up in the hills." And I was like, "Holy freaking cow!" You know. So he passed away. Didn't live a very good life. He ended up losing a leg in a motorcycle crash and then dying in a second motorcycle crash. But,
Wow.
you know, he's riding that motorcycle with one leg. But he's a wild dude. And anyhow, the cops ended up looking up in the hills and never found the bodies. I think he was just telling tall tales. But just the way I saw his brother's eyeballs, like that big with these saucer eyes. And I'll call my other buddy who's a cop and say, "Hey, remember that story at that party?" But this was a dude that I'd say, yeah, he was definitely someone I would say could do something like that. He's a guy that
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, of a lot of people that I know, he's that one guy I said, yeah, that is a dude you not want to be around. So just as a young man, be very mindful of guys wanting to talk to you at night. They're up to no good, man. And they can get you in trouble. Just like I tell my young son, you can do a ride along with someone, but the cops pull them over and they've got some drugs in the dashboard. That's on you too, bro. So.
Yep. Yep. Guilt by association.
Yeah, man. So let's go to the next one on your list, Fred. You know, eat lunch with a new kid. Tell me about that one. Where did you get that? Was that something that you experienced in junior high or high school? I mean, what's that all about? Because it says a lot about
Yeah.
stepping up.
Eat lunch with a new kid. So everybody knows especially like high school, junior high and high school, the clickiness, right? The pack mentality and with children in school. And like I said in previous episodes, children can be assholes.
Yeah.
That's just kind of part of the growing up, bullies and so, kids that pick on other kids. So just be different. Be that kid that if there's a new kid in school, get up, offer him a seat at the table because he doesn't have any friends yet, or he or she, might not have any friends yet. And they might be an introvert. They might not be a talker. And by you, opening yourself up and letting them sit with you and offering friendship or, companionship and helping them through that. Because that's a stressful time for a kid,
Yeah.
right? Or anybody really, any young person. When they're the new person in a job or a school, and they're just, they're not feeling comfortable. They're stressed out. They're worried, whatever. You know how people are. Just being nice, being courteous, and, it goes a long way. It goes a long way because you never know someday when that person, you might need their help for something, whatever it might be, a problem that you might face, and they may be able to help you out. It helps to be a courteous and thoughtful person. That's all.
Well, I think there's a lot of carryover into the teams. I think it's so important. You find a lot of guys who still haven't grown up, they're very immature, and they want to establish a dominance, man, like a pecking order. They want to let you know that they've got something on you and that they can read you. And I've always wanted it where my stepson, both of them were confident in who they were, and they didn't need to impress anyone, and they were okay, that they could think independently. I appreciate someone like you who can do that and go and say, hey, let's talk to the new kid, because it's not just junior high, man. It carries over into adulthood. People still play these power trips, and it's just like bizarre. I've never put up with that. I just don't. I think it's silliness, man. I'm not going to be part of your little psychological warfare on me. It's great when a guy says, hey, my name is Joe. Nice to meet you. This is Sam, Freddie, and Tom, and anything you need, versus this silent staring, and no talking. I've never been a part of that. Don't like it. I think it's just silly. But you do get it in the workplace. One of the things that I had told my stepson was when we went and bought a car last week. So I used to sell cars, and I said, whatever you do, don't do these things. And he ended up trying to do every single one. I said, I told you, do not tell the salesman your strategy. Let me do it. Let me do all the negotiations. I said, one of the things you need to do is be able to be uncomfortable and be silent. Say nothing. You have to stare at the manager and he'll stare back at you. So the game is you stare at the salesman, he makes you an offer, you make an offer, go back and forth, and eventually brings in the big guns with which is the sales manager. And I know how it works. You can make a sales, deal in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But it's this negotiation wastes 3 or 4 hours. You're going back and forth trying to nickel and dime you down, on the monthly. And every time he would speak up and say, Jake, let me do this. Don't offer anything to this guy. He's trying to pick your brain. And I would stare at them and I wore him down and wore him down. I said, listen, you're telling me a bunch of silliness. For example, the MSRP. This is the manufacturer's, suggested retail price. I said, that number means anything. If he's saying the car's 20 grand and he's going to sell it to you for 15 because the MSP is 20 grand, it could be 100 grand or 500 grand. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. It's an arbitrary number they pulled out of the air. That's not the real number that we're talking about. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. And Jake wanted to get in there. I said, Jake. So again, he learned something. And I said, did you learn anything after this? He said, yeah, I learned how to be silent. I learned how to stare at men and be uncomfortable, but not tell them my inner voice, not say what I was really thinking, even though I was climbing out of my chair. I said, exactly. A lot of times it's a power play. So he saw that.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge piece of advice. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable in those situations and making eye contact. Because when you make eye contact and you hold eye contact, that gives you power, whether you think so or not. And, I know those managers, those salespeople are, they do it every day. They do it all day, right? And they're really good at it, most of them. But you're letting them know that you're not the average guy that works and is just going to pay whatever you want them to pay. You're there to make a bargain, to make a negotiations, right? That's huge, especially the uncomfortable part. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's very important because I do feel uncomfortable at times, walk into a situation I don't know, but a lot of times is to step up and watch what's going on and make sure that I'm that it's probably me that's assuming wrongly. You may be in a situation, you go into a party or an event and you look around and you feel uncomfortable, you feel weird, and you say, well, what is that weirdness out there? What is that weirdness? Is it me? Is it them? Where's that thing, that id? What is that unspoken thing? Is it me? It's probably my imagination, man. It's probably my emotion. I look around, look through the crowd, there's nothing there. It's actually me. It's my fear. It's my worry. And the whole thing is to teach my stepsons how to deal with that weirdness, feeling uncomfortable and realizing it's all in your head, man.
Exactly.
Drown it out, get rid of it, and drive on.
Yeah, it's a huge psychological factor, right? Especially the quietness, because people don't like quiet, right? When there's multiple people in a room, they don't like it. A lot of people feel the need to talk or just to say anything, just to overcome that silence because it is so uncomfortable and awkward. But if you can tolerate it and you can learn how to sit in it and enjoy it, that I think that's huge, especially for negotiations like you're talking about.
Yeah. Now you had one here, which was after writing an angry email, read it carefully, then delete it. So I want to hear your point of view on that. I'll share my own. Had a team member, his parents found out that his wife was having relations with another guy while he was deployed. It was pretty bad. And he wrote a crazy letter and said, whatever you do not mail it. Sleep on it for 24 hours. We'll do a mission tomorrow. She'll still be there. He'll still be there. But you're not going to get anything from blasting off this crazy email. So we had internet connection, Wi-Fi, boom, he sends it off, right? And then we go on mission. And now he's just climbing the walls. He said, man, I should have sent it. He's obsessing about, he wrote this crazy email to her. And now we're on mission, and he doesn't know if he's coming back or not. That's not the last words you want to have. If we had gotten blown up, it wouldn't have been great. Well, it wasn't a great situation. It wasn't a great situation anyhow. But for him to come back. So I said, did I not tell you? do not fire off that email. And he said, I know. You told me. I said, dude, don't ever. That could be your last words.
Yep. I guess the bottom line of that one, after writing an angry email, read it carefully, then delete it, because you don't ever want to speak with emotion. And most people, right, when they're, something shocking like that happens, whether it's rage, sadness, whatever the emotion is, they think with that emotion, and the first words that come out of their mouth or on paper or a keyboard is that emotion. And we need to keep calmer. They say calmer heads prevail, right? Yes. So especially in anger, you definitely don't want to communicate that at that moment. You want to, like you said, sleep on it, wait a day or wait an hour, go walk around outside, take a couple breaths, get your heart rate down, calm yourself down, because you're not thinking logically, you're thinking emotionally. And some of those problems, they need to be dealt with logic and reasoning, right?
Yep.
That's it really. There's no really explanation. That's about it.
Yeah. Timmy's asking a question. So he's asking, so Fred, I'm going to point that towards you. He said, what drives you in the morning?
What drives you in the morning? Man, life drives me in the morning. The fact that I woke up and I have a pulse still, every day is a gift. And I think in our day-to-day lives, we get so engulfed in stress and chaos and all the dealings of life. We don't really appreciate it. We don't, because, when that time comes and you don't wake up, there's nothing you can do about it, right? However it happens. So take advantage of the time you do have, because your days are numbered, whether you think so or not. Don't be negative, be positive, and live life to the fullest. I know that kind of sounds like a Hallmark card, but I mean, it's true. Why wouldn't we rather be pleasant and positive and live fulfilling lives than just be negative? Because I had a rough patch during my retirement. Probably I would say from I retired in 2012. So 2013, 14 till about probably 17, 18, I was pretty negative. It was bad. I would get tired of hearing myself sometimes. And one day I just sat down and I was like, man, Fred, you're going to get your head out of your ass and get out of this rut and quit being so negative, because, I've had relatives that died in their 40s. They had unhealthy lifestyles, and that was the main reason. But you never know. You never know when your last day is. So enjoy your family, your friends. Enjoy life. If you can have fun, have fun. I know we have work and we have bills, but we can't let that define us.
I'd say for me, it's wasting time. I wasted a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And even though I was running a company in Silicon Valley and I was doing well financially, I was okay. I was doing other things that were probably, we're not good. And in my 30s, I was drinking under bridges. I was wasting time partying and drinking with just whoever. Now, I'm not a drunk. I can function. I haven't had a drink since 2008. No, I've had 3 or 4 beers since 2008, but I just don't drink unless it would be someone like Fred, a good friend. So I wasted a lot of time, man. I really honestly hated the life I lived. And I said up to now, I really want to be a good influence on people. I want to change direction. I don't want to be that guy who is drinking beers under an expressway, man, in the bushes. And it's sad. When I look back at that, my wife said, that's a sad life. I said, yeah, it was a very sad life. It's a terrible life. I don't ever want to be like that again. So my goal is to pass on any information I have, any knowledge that I have. I want to be a trusted advisor. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good teacher. I want to be a wise man. I want to build relationships. And so what drives me is purpose. And I'm not the greatest Christian, but I do want to share the love of Jesus Christ and this idea that I have value and I have worth. And it's not by how perfect I am, but it's by loving others. And that's really what it comes down to. Is I'm not trying to make myself anything special. I'm trying to communicate to other people that they're important and that they have value and that God has a plan for them. And faith in time is going to do a lot of good stuff for people, and people will grow.
Yeah, I was looking at these questions. I don't know if you saw those last. Timmy sounds like a bit of a smart ass, so
Oh yeah.
I think we'll ignore those next two. Yeah,
All right.
this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, we can have nice things. Timmy, you're doing great, but I
You're
don't know
off
where you're
to a
going
good
with this.
start, and then you just went south.
Yeah, went south.
Wasn't I just talking about negative Nancy's? I
Yeah,
had to stop myself because I came very close, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna.
right.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, man, your list. There's a couple of them, right? You sent a couple versions. You got the copy one you took pictures of, and then the text one. So there was a lot of good information there. Very interesting
Yeah,
perspectives. Let your best friends be your worst critics and see if you can accept the results in peace. That's a great one. Like I really like that one a little bit. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah. I mean, the friends that I have today are the friends who have just ridiculed me and made fun of me all the time. I mean, there's never a serious moment when I'm with them. I mean, always a greeting. I'm checking on you right now to see if you're alive or dead, and we're always just busting each other's chops, man, which I appreciate. I've known these guys, 30 to 40 years. So I know guys that I got into big, serious trouble with 30, 40 years. Two of them are law enforcement retired. Great guys, serious guys. They're not jokers. Very freaking good at what they did in their jobs. Very dangerous guys, very capable, very skilled. Love them to death. Um, and I appreciate the fact that I have had them in my life. I said, my gosh, I'm really surprised that they've been my friend for this long because I wasn't always the greatest person. Well, that's not true. One of my buddies said I can't hang out with you anymore because of law enforcement and you've got a bad name. So uh, that happened for about a decade where we didn't talk. And then when I started cleaning up my life, we reconnected. But these guys were people who tell me straight, and I appreciate that. They would say, "Hey, you're a screw up, man. You are not a good person." And that's painful to hear. It's painful to hear someone say, "I can't fraternize with you anymore," because of my work. But it was for me to look in and say, what is wrong with me? What is so broken in me that I continue to do these things? And it took a while for me to get out of these schemas, these things that I was doing over and over that were actually degrading my life and the quality of my life. And I was able to move ahead and now have a wife and children and I've got a good job. And so yeah, it's great. But it's important to have those friends that are not always, because Fred, you know that as well. You have people that all they're doing is they want something out of you. And so they're flattering you and you don't
Yeah.
really know how to read them. You don't really know, are these real friends? And I have found out, and I was just talking to my wife about it today. People have taken advantage of my position to get ahead because they think I have something that they need, which they don't realize I really don't have much there in the social media space. As much as they would think, I don't have that much pull, but they may think that, and they've gotten something out of it. And so I look to guys like Fred. Fred and I have talked about that before, which is loyalty is very important and keeping your word. And I just did a episode on We Fight Monsters on oath keeping, the importance of keeping your word.
I
And
saw that on your list.
yeah, that was important because oath keeping back in the day, they had the Odin stone. It had giant circles, an 8-foot tall stone, and people would, if they wanted to make a deal, they would both put their hands to the hole and they would shake hands, and that would say they are going to keep an oath. Well, why was that important? Well, keeping an oath was important because everyone in the village knew you, everybody in that town knew you, that your whole life was tied up into that oath. That if you broke that oath, everybody in that village knew you broke your oath. So it was
Yeah.
very important. When Beowulf or any of these other guys, these Vikings, they gave their word when they bragged about something. I am going to go do this. It wasn't a brag. It was saying, I am going to do that because I can keep my word. I am going to do everything I say I'm going to do. So if you say, I'm going to slay that dragon, you would slay that dragon. You said, I'm going to sail the 7 seas. You would sail the 7 seas. You did it because you meant it. And there was no way around that. So it's important. But Fred had come with something very important. It's loyalty and honesty.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the two big ones. I know I say it all the time. I feel like a broken record, but loyalty and integrity are like two huge priorities, I guess, in my mind for friendship and, associating myself with people. And not everybody has to be, super loyal or, I have to worry about their integrity, right? There's different levels of relationships and friendships, but those are kind of important. You have one of your on your list here.
Mhm.
I want to talk about a little bit because I learned the lesson the hard way the first time, and then you talked about your stepson. Kind of went through this.
Yeah.
Choose your partner wisely. Lust blinds you. Indeed, it does, my friend. Indeed, it does.
It does.
My first marriage. I
I didn't know you were
was
married. I didn't
I
know you
was
were
I was
married before.
yeah,
Really? Oh, okay.
twice, yeah.
All right. Go for it,
Uh,
man.
I was pretty young. I was 22. She was 18, and I spent. I was pretty new in the army still. I'd spent you know the whatever months in training, basic AIT, and then I went on leave for a few weeks, and then I went to Korea. So my first duty station was Korea, which they considered a hardship tour back then.
Yeah.
And I left my hometown girlfriend behind and all that stuff, and I was there for a year. I came back, and my first duty station was El Paso, Texas, and there was a wild nightlife out there, buddy. And I immersed myself in it fully, and I ended up, shacking up with this girl, and uh, I ended up moving in with her, and it was horrible, man.
Yeah.
Just I was a dumb young kid. And this goes both ways. This is men and women.
Sure.
Choose your mate wisely, right? Because lust does blind you. That's the that's the cliff notes of that story. Ended up getting divorced like 5 years later. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I never knew you were married prior to your
yeah.
current wife. I never
It
knew
was, it
that,
was
man. Yeah.
short. It was
Yeah.
short lived, but
Yeah.
I mean, she was a nice person. She just
Yeah.
there's a lot of how it is, man. You don't know somebody till you like live with them for a few years, and then there's other issues like
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into mental health, but there were some other issues there
Yeah.
that I didn't know about, so it became a problem later on.
I get it, man. For me, I was going with a gal who was a model, and anyhow had left me and gone down to Hollywood. Ended up marrying some guy who makes big budget movies. I won't say who. And I was caught up in that, like, most beautiful woman, and she was, probably still is. Um, but I was so blinded by looks, like somehow that I'm an accomplished man because you have what every man is blinded by, which is power and money and fame. And I realized, how shallow I was as a young man. And I've gotten married to my wife, and I realized what a wonderful woman. Now, we had some really bad hardships. I've told Fred earlier, man, we were so disconnected, many issues in our marriage, and we have basically reclaimed our marriage, and we worked very hard for that. We are very happy, very blessed. We have gone through counseling, many years of counseling, because we were on different pages. But with my wife, I realized what a good woman she is. She is loyal. She is kind. She is honest. There are ways that we didn't connect, but my wife is a person who's a provider. She loves to cook for me. She loves to take care of me. And I realized my wife has so many good qualities that my ex did not have. Now, my ex and I, we were very young as well. I understand. I wouldn't say she was a social climber or gold digger, but she was someone who wanted to go to Hollywood and become, famous or wealthy, and that's fine. It just didn't work for us, and God bless her. I hope she's very successful wherever she is in the world. But it wasn't for us, and it wasn't meant to be. But lust can blind you, and I was willing to do X, Y, Z to please her, and I realized what a weak person I was, what a weak man I was. And I see a lot of guys do that. That they are putty in some people's hands, and women too. They don't understand their own self worth, and I didn't know mine, and so they will let a person abuse them. They will let a person beat them or rob them, do something to them, and it usually ends up very sadly. And for me, I finally learned that what's really important is those values that Fred and I have talked about many times, which is loyalty and honesty and kindness. And it's not about wealth or power. So yeah, lust can blind you, and you can end up doing some very foolish things.
I'm looking at both your lists and mine, and there's a lot
Mhm.
of parallels on here for
Yeah,
sure.
there are.
Many parallels. Pretty interesting. Just goes to show you they're tried and true, you know, concepts, I guess.
Well, I think you and I have a lot of similarities, but I think that what we believe, most men do believe, but and they don't know how to articulate. They don't know how to really put in words. They never did, like perhaps you and me, write them down. You know, but like you write down your dreams, and I've done the same thing. And
Yeah,
I want you to
you made a
actually speak
reference
on
in
that.
there about write write down your dreams and gleams. Was on yours.
Yeah, mine was dreams and gleams, which is what can you get
Write down your
today or
dreams.
the
Yep.
next month or so, and your dream is what can you establish in 5 or 10 years. So your gleams would be, you know, things that you can set up, like I'm going to save $1,000. That's achievable. And your dreams are something that may not happen, but you work to make it happen. Like, which is some people it's just buy a house. Some people it's, you know, move to another city. So you should write those down. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually studies and research in the psychology world about writing statements down. So if you have a goal, we've seen this. If you've been to any classes or seminars or any kind of college lectures about uh, what was I lost the subject matter, but
Yeah,
just goals, like goal setting, for
yeah.
example. Public speaking. Public
Mhm.
speaking was a class that I had. Yeah, everybody has to take, right, for to get a degree. Goal setting and writing down those goals, long-term goals, short-term goals, so on. And I don't know what the percentages are, but you're like more likely if you write down a long-term goal, like in 10 years, I want to own a small fishing boat, right? You're more likely to own that small fishing boat in 10 years than if you never wrote it down. Because when you write
Mhm.
those goals down, those dreams, those aspirations, whatever you want to call them, you're kind of concreting them or
Right,
petrifying them. I guess you're making
right.
them hard or
Yes.
making them, hard copy. I'm lacking the word for it, but and you're more likely to follow through on that than if you just say, yeah, one day I'd like to, have a Porsche 911 or whatever, and then life happens and you end up getting sidetracked and doing other stuff and
Yeah, you relook at your journal, you relook at your book.
yeah,
What did you write in that journal? And you realize there are a lot of things, and you can
another
revisit it
form
from time to time.
another form of journaling. Yep, another
Yeah.
example of journaling like we talked about before.
Yeah, I think it's so important to keep some type of personal diary or journal about things you want to do. When I look back at my old journals, I say, go in the military, and I made lists. I made lists like, okay, law enforcement, military, and these say pros and cons. I can still see the breakdowns when I go into them. I'm sure you've done a lot of that, but you know, I think a lot of young men they need to kind of have a good sense of where they're going in life and who they are as young men, and it's so important to write in journals, man. But do you want to go on anything else on this list? Anything else you wanted to bring up?
Um, I mean, there's I could go on. Like I'm looking at my list. Like I could
Yeah.
go on for a while. Um,
Well, let's look at that. Never be afraid to ask out the best looking girl in the room. I 100% agree with you, and I've got a story behind it. But what are your thoughts on that?
that's basically means, and it can be taken figuratively or literally. Figuratively
Yeah.
meaning don't sell yourself short. Like if you want to go for that big goal, that big dream, then go for it. Don't sell yourself short. And yes, it can be figurative if because I was this way as a small, teenager, like middle school and then early years of high school. I had zero confidence with girls and was afraid to talk to them. Um, I would talk to the ones that I knew that I grew up with, when we're since elementary and stuff that I was comfortable around. But like the other ones, like, I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it, bring myself to do it. That's all that means is just don't sell yourself short because you never know what that other person thinks of you. They might think that you're the unattainable person
Right.
or
Right.
hard to talk to, or you just don't know what other people think. So that's all I meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, we put a lot on looks, and I think we should. I mean, we want to find someone who's attractive, right? I used to work in a nightclub, and I've been in and out of nightclub business for a long time. I mean, I used to work as a doorman. I worked as a bartender, and I'd watch guys. I mean, doing the long walk of shame. They walk up to the counter. I worked in one of the best nightclubs in the city, and you'd have the hottest looking guys and girls working, coming there to club, and these guys would walk up there, and you would see their friends go to them on like, go talk to her, go talk to her. They go up there, and that woman would just like go away. And this dude would just dump his head and walk away. And it was that long walk of shame. And their friends were just cracking up like, oh, dude, man, you just got roasted. And I learned a lot. I'm like, dude, do not short sell yourself. Do not, undervalue yourself. Go out there. And I've always dated attractive women. People said, how do you do it? I said, because it was a numbers game for me. I'd say, I'll just go talk to her. If she doesn't like me, I don't care. My wife, I met her, and a lot of people like, she's very attractive. Well, my wife, I met her on a fitness singles dating site, and where you write down you like basketball, you rate everything, basketball, football, boxing, whatever, and they pair you with someone else who has rated theirs from like 1 to 5. And my wife was top 25 at the time, and people said, how'd you get your wife? I said, because my wife's an idiot. I mean, my wife didn't know what a loser I was, but I think it was just a numbers thing where I said, okay, I'm just going to go after everyone on that list. And if they say no, then the answer is no. But at the end of the day, my wife and I connected on a different level, which is, looks do fade. And, we are both older now, and we're not what we were. But I always said it didn't matter that I had crooked teeth or whatever I had. It didn't matter that I wasn't 6'4" or something, or had a Ferrari. At the end of the day is, don't undervalue yourself. Go and shoot big, right? And
shoot for the stars.
Yeah, shoot for the stars, man. And maybe the person you connect with will like who you are. But, we've gone through a long list of things today for young people, which is, again, don't undervalue yourself. Go out and go big, right? We also said that you have to stand up to bullies, that you have to ask the new guy, hey, you want to hang out with me, whether it's in junior high or whether it's in, your work life in corporate. Don't just shrink. Don't be that wallflower. Go out and be vocal. Introduce yourself. Have some courage, man. Be bold and speak truthfully. Be honest. We talked about a lot of things today, and I think it's really important for boys who are facing a crisis of confidence that they kind of understand their place in the world. They may not have the whole answer of where they fit in life, but they have to know that they'll figure it out as they go. But write in your journal who you think you are, your dreams, your gleans, what you can achieve next month, which you could achieve in 5 years, and go after it. And also friendships are important too. I've had some friends, like I said, I've gotten a lot of hot water, and I've still got, about 3, maybe 4 friends that I've known 30 to 40 years. And we connect. Fred, your thoughts on anything?
Yeah. I'm going through the photo lists you sent me, and the ones it seems like they're mostly skills, which I think are important.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, man, I would love to talk about these. Some of these we already did talk about, but like ones that stand out. Number one, speak in public. There's power in spoken word. Speaking in public was always something like horrifying for me, and I had to take it in college. I had to do it in college, and I did okay. I passed it. I think I got like a B+ or something. I didn't do too bad, but I was horrified. I didn't really learn how to get comfortable speaking in public till I became an Army recruiter, and I had to do it for my livelihood. You know what I mean? And I just became comfortable doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? But that's an important one, because even for introverts like us, which I think we've already talked about how we think we're introverts, and some people are very outgoing and it comes easier for them, but like guys like us, not as much. And if you learn how to do that, how to speak in public confidently, that makes some big changes for you as far as your confidence in life and your success, your successes, I think. Because since when I did that recruiting stint, that helped me become a better people person, how to work better with people and be able to communicate more effectively. And then, later on, being an instructor, like shooting and stuff like that, like I still public speak, and I like it. I enjoy it now. It's not anything scary, but, you just got to get out there and do it. And it's very important, I think. You have read good books. Leaders are readers. I agree. I don't read probably as much as I'd like to read. I have like 8 books that I haven't finished yet. But I do read. And it has to be, like I said, it has to be something I'm very interested in to hold my attention for that long.
Yeah.
And you do become more intelligent by reading. It's science, like your brain gets exercised, especially it's more difficult level of reading. It definitely exercises your brain. Playing instrument. This one is so huge. I made my kids do this because I did it. I did it as a kid, and
What would you play?
I played. The first thing I played was trombone in
Mhm.
elementary, and then drums. I learned drums. I took drum lessons right around the same time. Drums came a little later, but
Yeah.
I'm a drummer. Well, I like to think of myself as a drummer. I'm pretty decent, I think. Do you play anything?
I play the flute, and
Do you?
I used to hide. I
Yeah.
used to hide that case. I didn't let anybody know I was playing the flute, but I did like it. I'm like, man, finds out I'm a flautist. I'm like, but yeah, I think playing a guitar or anything, it's awesome. I think it's
Yeah,
very
anything,
rewarding.
anything,
Yeah,
piano,
anything.
like saxophone, whatever, man. Just
Yeah,
learn to play an instrument.
yeah,
Um, Play individual, two person, and team sports. We talked about that. I made my son play every sport that I could find in little league form of some type, all of them. And
yeah. I think it's important. I love wrestling. I like boxing.
yep,
I like running. These are individual sports.
yep.
I do play team sports. Yeah, I play basketball, football, but I like individual sports a lot. But I think it's so important, like you said, you need to play team sports. You need to know how it is to be the last guy picked in, elementary school and in high school. You just need to go out and try and fail at something. Maybe it's the track team if it's not the football team, but you need to get out there and play some team sports.
I, I would say that even individual sports or
Mhm.
combative sports, like you're talking about wrestling and boxing, like
Yeah,
especially at a scholastic level, those are team sports. Like wrestling
right.
is definitely a team sport. Yeah, it's a one-on-one event. However, you're in a weight class, so you're part of a team, and you fit. You're in a segment of that team, and how many matches your team wins. You're part of that. So if you win your weight class, you chalk the
Right.
W up for your team. So it's still a team sport. And we talked about how team sports or sports in general help the kids with their social development.
It does.
And whether it's a team sport or an individual sport, you're still learning sportsmanship. You're learning how to work with others, and in competitiveness, right? In competition, which is you know it's important, I think, to be able to work in that social environment and be able to function.
Yeah,
Um,
very
so
true.
yeah, those are huge. Then you get more into like individual skills, like building a fire. That's a man.
Very
Everybody needs to know
important.
how to build a fire.
Very
Yep.
important. There are people who don't know how to do that. I don't
Yep.
care if it's building a fire on a beach with your girlfriend or in a situation that's very precarious, man. That you need to let people know, hey, I need help. As a
Then you
as a
get
warn
it.
a danger signal.
Yeah, fire's important. Camp out, and then I like your description. Pitch the tent, cook stuff over the fire, the whole thing.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's important.
yeah, yeah. I always took my kids camping. Carver turkey. That's a good one because if you don't know how, if you screw that up, man, there's a lot of people counting on you. So if you're the head
Yeah,
of the whatever, if you're the guy that carves the turkey on the Thanksgiving dinner in front of the family, you screw that up, like
yeah. My dad taught me that. He said you need to know how to carve a turkey. I
yeah,
remember. I
yeah,
still remember the conversation. I don't know when, what year, how old I was, but I remember my dad said you need to know how to carve a turkey. We'd watch him every year carving that turkey.
absolutely. Because your relatives ain't going to talk crap and say anything to you, but they're thinking
Yeah.
it. Light a grill, right? You
Yep.
talked about that, right?
Yep.
How not to blow yourself up and turn propane on and ignite
Yep.
it, or
Very important.
charcoal fluid, whatever you're using for an ignition. Jump start a car. I know there's many young
People
people
don't
that
know how to do it. Some
don't
people
know how to
don't.
do that. Yeah,
Very important. Very, very important to know how to do that.
yeah. And now you get electric vehicles, which
Yeah.
I don't know that those can be jump started. I'm not sure how that. I don't own one, so I don't know. I'll have to ask my wife. She owns a Tesla. Tie a knot. You already talked about that, like bowling, square knot, taut line,
Yeah.
figure eight, among others. That's important, especially if you're doing a lot of outdoor type activities like camping, fishing,
Yeah.
hunting, sailing, boating, whatever.
Very important as well. Young men need to know how to tie knots.
Here's another Gen Z probably lower on theirs. Use basic tools, hammer, saw, wrench, screwdriver. I don't know. Do they even like? I know how to do that stuff, and
Dude, I
my
have
kids know
seen
how to do this.
some people don't know how to do that. I used
Yeah.
to do construction, man. I did demo too.
Yep.
Loved it, man. I love getting sledgehammers and smashing things. I did roofing during the summer. I loved it,
Yep.
man. Climbing up there in the hot summer at 16 and just banging out, stuff. Just framing. Some people don't even know how to do that. Just get out there and use a hammer. You know how to bang a nail. Some people don't
Driving
know
nails. Driving
yeah, they don't know how to
nails
drive a
is
nail.
easy to f that up too.
Yeah. So because you will end up using that, like I do, with my planter boxes that I built. I built 3 of them out there.
Yep.
They're like 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, and that's fun. Get out there. You
Yeah.
need to know how to saw, and you need to know how to hammer. Very
Yep.
important for a young man.
And you got painting a room, trim and all. Right.
Yep.
That's a task if you've never done it before, for sure. That can be a little bit daunting.
I did that as well, and
fan.
I painted hospitals, man, during a summer
Did ya?
job when I need. Yeah, it was a suck job. It took forever. My buddy did the fireproofing on that. They would wrap this netting around the pillars, and then you'd end up painting, spraying with a gun. But that's so important. Even your own house, I don't ever hire a painter. I can do it myself, and there's a way to do it. So that's important because you will be painting lots of stuff in your lifetime.
That's the part for me, man. Like, it's funny because paying somebody to do these things,
Mhm.
if you can't do these things like paint a room, you're paying their labor rate, which their hourly rate's probably like at least $50 an hour.
At least.
It's over $100 if it's not that low.
Right.
So if you can, your fridge goes down for some reason, and now you have YouTube, you have all these resources. You can look up what happens when this model fridge goes down. Then you look and they're like, oh, there's a microchip or there's a circuit board in there that gets fried. It gets moisture and it gets fried. And all I have to do is go on Amazon and I can buy this chip board for $40 instead of paying the refrigerator guy just to come look is $100. Never mind making any repairs. If he has to repair the chip, it's going to cost me the parts, the shipping, and his labor rate, which could be $500 to replace a $40 circuit card or a chip board.
Yeah. I've learned a lot on YouTube, man. Actually, the coffee maker, we have that right there. I replaced the light by watching YouTube. The fridge light that I did, that particular model is nowhere to be found, but someone, I think it was from some dude from Pakistan. I could never really understand what they're saying, but I watched and I replaced the light for that particular fridge. Yeah. And even the gear shift for the car. I fixed it. I don't know what my kid did, but man, he got it jammed and stuck in place. And I watched so many videos. But you need to be able to get out there and do it. And then I had him do it. So he knew how to do it and said, next time it happens, you now know how to fix this. Yeah.
And that's the advantage these young people have nowadays, information at your fingertips with YouTube and all these other platforms where in our days, it was, if your dad didn't show you or one of your uncles didn't show you how to do it, you probably don't know how to do it. That's how I learned most of the crap I know how to do. There's a couple things I picked up on YouTube recently. But my dad taught me how to, fix drywall or, change a light or not a light bulb, but an actual light fixture, an outlet if it burns out, those kind of things, kind of simple stuff.
Yeah, I think dads are great for that. My dad was great. I mean, everything. We looked at him change his spark plugs, right? I did the brake pads, right? Everything on the car. Work on the carburetor, whatever it is, we pull things apart. I think even with the engine, I think it's so invaluable that kids get out there, even if they're holding the light and the dad's yelling at them, hold the light, watch.
That's how it went down for me. Usually I was holding the light, getting yelled at.
Yeah.
This is funny.
Yeah. So this one, handle a gun and a knife. Oh, go ahead, Fred. You're saying?
Oh, no, I got a really quick story. Yeah. My son, his freshman or sophomore year at college, he was in Boone, which is like 3.5 hours away in the mountains, and his brakes started scratching. I'm like, well, you got any auto parts stores near you? He's like, yeah, there's an AutoZone or whatever it was. I was like, all right, go in there and ask them for your model truck, which was a Ford, of course, brake pads, brake shoes. Which brakes? He said the front. I'm like, all right, get 2 sets because we're going to do both sets. We're going to do the left and the right side. So I drove there with my tools. I threw my tools in the truck, drove there, and then I taught him how to change his brake pads in in the student parking lot right there. We had his truck up on jack stands and pulling the wheels apart and everything and changing his brakes. So he knows how to do all that stuff now because we did it when he was younger.
Yeah, good
deal. Then, you started touching on handle a gun and a knife. I can't agree with this more. For safety, protection, sport, and hunting, most definitely, man. Those are, this modern day, like, guns are become this like evil entity that everybody fears, and with gun violence and stuff. And this is what I tell people, man. Like, gun control, these control freaks. If we all turned in all our guns and all our bullets tomorrow to the government, that will not stop any gun violence in this country. You could take everybody's guns and everybody's bullets and knives and everything away from them. There's still going to be people getting murdered on the streets of all these cities and towns and stuff like that. Like, there's no turning back, right?
Well, look at the UK crime, right? Look at the crime in Japan with stabbings. UK
where they can't buy guns. Yeah. Those are countries that can't buy guns.
Stabbings. Yeah, all the stabbings, man. And look at these terrorist attacks, right? These people in the city centers just stabbing everybody, women, children, anybody. Knives. Come on, man.
Yep.
But my stepson called me up just like 4 days ago, and he said Austin is sketchy, and he's going from his college to his work, and he said, I need one. And I had tried to encourage the boys to get guns for a long time, but I never pushed it on them. I always thought they'd take to it, but they didn't. And finally, one of them said, I'm ready. I want to learn. I want to use it. I'm so happy that he actually finally asked. And he said because, it's kind of funny when they first started out, they're like, yeah, Obama's cool and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, really? So if you want to mow the lawn and I'm going to pay you for it, and I'm going to give your money to the neighbors and distribute it to your neighbors, would you like that? He says, no. I said, well, that's distribution. That's socialism. So they woken up. Now so he's gone to Texas and he's become much more conservative. And now he's a hardcore conservative. He's like, yeah, he saw the light. And I said, well, God bless you, son. Now you know what we're talking about. So he's all in.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Skin an animal. Yep, that's an important skill for sure, especially if you're hunting for your own sustenance, right? Butchering an animal, right? Not just skinning it, the whole kit and caboodle.
So when did you get Freddie to start learning how to do that? How old was he?
I don't know, because him and his buddies may have killed some squirrels when they were little that I don't know about. Because he has this one friend, he went out hunting with us this last pig hunt we went on, where we didn't see any pigs. We just saw everything else that wasn't in season. So they used to go out and do little excursions when they were kids. So I'm not sure how old he probably was, but I know he butchered a couple pigs, like probably a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We butchered he killed a doe last year. We butchered that. He helped me with that. So, I mean, he knows how to do it for sure. He probably watched YouTube videos, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's what they do now. Because he's hunting quite a bit without me. So, let me see what else you got here. Oh, I like this one. Be a gentleman. Open doors. Stand when a woman approaches at dinner, etc. That's important. Being a gentleman, just in general, not even with a date or whatever, but like just be a gentleman to everybody. That's important. Grow stuff, not just the chia pot. So that means like gardening, right? Planting.
Yeah, I think that's so important, man. They've got this group that holds these gardening sessions every week. I'm going to go down this weekend. Next weekend, every weekend, they show you how to grow stuff, how to test the soil. I think it's really important. When we retire, we're going to go more rural, man. My wife and I have talked about it. We live, in the city, in the suburbs, but we want to go more into the country. She sees a viability in doing that for a lot of reasons. People get on your nerves, traffic, more crime. That's just what happens. The more citizens you have, the more problems you have. You have gridlock on 66 where we're at. You have more crime. And I read the crime stats. A lot of people don't. I know where the robberies were. I know what's going on at Walmart or at Sheetz. I know that they're selling drugs here. I know where the prostitution is. A lot of people don't read the crime stats. I do. And I would say to you, yeah, we want to go more to where we have independence and we can grow what we have on our land. So that's
You guys are gonna do like homesteading the whole thing?
yeah, I definitely want to do that. I've
Nice.
I've been wanting to do that for decades. So my wife finally kind of after COVID, I think a lot of people woke up after COVID and said, people are crazy.
No.
You realize that people are pretty much not nice. So you got to find people think more like you than less like you. But yeah, I'd like to do something like that. And we've talked about North Carolina.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like land is getting more scarce and scarce every day. Like out here where I live, this county, they're developing. It's blowing up. Like
Yeah.
when I first moved out here, like 20 years ago, it was all retired folks and golfers. Moore County is a big, golf area. Um, but now there's all kinds of young
Oh,
families, military
yeah.
families, because Fort Bragg's spreading out. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to live in shitty Fayetteville anymore, so they're coming out this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Nobody wants to live in Fayetteville, but I tell you, you've seen where I live now. Well, look at all the data centers. It is blowing up. I've seen 4 major ones within about 2 miles of me. So they're all over 66 and we need them, right? We got Iron Mountain just built that enormous building that has all the, digital records, but yeah, we want to get away from there. But it is important to know how to grow stuff. And I would like to go further into growing, whether it's potatoes and squash and all that. But yeah, that is a goal. I think a young man needs to know how to just, even if he doesn't have the land, he doesn't own property, but just have an awareness of how to do that.
Yeah, even just basic stuff like fishing. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Fishing's like a very easy skill to learn how to do, and you can feed yourself
Right.
if you're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you got iron a shirt. That's an interesting one, and that's very true too. And do laundry and other work around the house in a manly way. Let me give you a personal example of ironing and doing your own laundry. So my wife has always done everything for both of our kids. So this is where I failed, I guess. And it was probably because I was gone all the time, deployed. But she would do all that stuff. And to continue into their teenage years, which I would have made them do their own their own laundry. Like, screw that.
Right.
Nope, she did all that stuff. Washed it, folded it, put it away. I'm like, you're enabling them. And then in college, and that's kind of the, I guess, stereotype. College students, they come home to visit, they bring their bags of dirty laundry, right? And my wife would do it for them. And like, oh my God, now my son lives, he lives a couple hours away. So he has to do his own laundry. I gave him a washing machine and dryer to do it. And he's doing his own. So
yeah, with Jacob and Lucas, they always asked me and said, no, you're going to learn, because I did at 19 when I joined the Marine Corps. So it was important. So I definitely, and my wife, she loves the kids. She wants to do a lot, but she's, she doesn't enable in a lot of ways, because she says, no, you got to learn it. And with Abel, I mean, he's 6, he's learning to do his own laundry, and he loves to help, man. Kids love to help. So, but it is important. Ironing a shirt, you got to do it.
That's so important. Just for that point right there, is when they're young, they think it's fun. Like, hell yeah, it is fun. Come do your laundry. Like, yes, train them, like brainwash them, and get them to do that, because when they're teenagers, they won't know any different.
Well, and this is not a knock on the older boy, but I was putting oil in the vehicle with Abel, who's 6, and his dad came out and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Putting oil in the car." He says, "You're putting oil in the car?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "How do you do it?" And I had to show him how to check the oil. And I said, "Jake, you boys fought me, for years." I said, "You need to know how to do this." And now your 6-year-old son is learning, and it's kind of funny. He's older now, and he's figuring out, okay, everything my stepdad told me, I have got to do. So again, it's not a knock on him. I love him. He's got a lot of great, qualities, but others, I say, he's got to come up to speed, man, because I've said before, I am going to die. I will not be here forever. Yeah. You've got to learn the things that I learned from my father that I didn't like to do, but I did, because one day it's going to come in handy. I will be dead. Your mom will be gone, and you're going to have to take over somehow and know how to change the oil. You're going to have to know how to change a tire. You're going to have to know how to handle a gun, if you're in a dodgy neighborhood, something. be an asset.
Or even worse, like the end of the SHTF, right?
Yeah.
We get invaded, or it's a total anarchy,
Yeah. You
whatever.
just
Like
don't
you
know.
need a gun to protect yourself to stay alive. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I earned a lot of shirts as an army recruiter, by the way. That became an
Definitely.
easier skill to do. So
Yeah.
manage money. This is one I wish I had better mentorship with, because I was never really learned about investing. And I mean, I know a little, but nobody ever like pulled me aside and gave me the down and dirty on that. But that's a huge one. Like, for sure, keep a balanced checkbook, show generosity, learn
That,
basic saving and investing.
that's something I wish I had learned as well. I mean, I bought my first motorcycle. It was $800. I loved it. I bought a couple motors. I had like 3 motorcycles after that, and I was able to pay cash for my Harley when I had one. But I didn't know how to invest. I really wish someone had sat me down and said, "This is how you invest in the stock market." I'm not just talking about drips. I'm talking about actually full on going, in investing, and would have been different because I love sitting down every night and going through my books. It just gives me pleasure. Some people don't like it. I actually like to see what I've spent on groceries, and balance the checkbook. But
Uh,
yeah, I think boys need to know how to do that.
yeah, I think everybody does. I think that should be a subject taught in school, like
Yes,
personal
totally agree.
finance, which I don't think it is any. I don't think it ever has been. I know it wasn't when I was in school. When I was in high school, we had one teacher who talked about it, personal finance, for like a semester.
Yeah.
But other than that, like that should be ingrained in people, I think.
Well, one of the best classes I ever took was home ec, and I wish I'd done
Yeah.
more of that, like cooking, how to make flour. I mean, how to make bread. Using flour and water and some other ingredients. Just
Yep.
wish I had paid more attention. So it's very important.
Yep. We touched on shaking a hand. You have the
Yep.
same note. Strong hand. Save the tuna for dinner and look them in the eyes.
Yeah.
Give a man a hug. Oh, I'm sorry. Give a man a hug. Skip the side hug. Go arms spread and eagle with bold back flaps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not weird,
A
man. Just
manly, a manly hug. No, it's not
yeah.
weird. It's not weird.
Nah, just bro. Hey, what's up, man? And that's it.
Yeah,
So
I like it. And then keep vows, which we talked about, right? Be a man of
yeah,
your
this
word.
one is I think something both you and I like. This one is so important to me.
Yep.
And I have experienced the fallout, and I know you have as well. It just drives me up the wall. And I know you're going to lose friends, but if you promise something, you do it. Period. I don't care if it's a loss to you. You gave your word. You do it. I will keep my word, even if someone doesn't keep theirs. That's something I do.
Yeah, unfortunately, that the times of a man is only as good as his word. Unfortunately, that time is behind us. Maybe not for some of us like you and I, but like for the most part, I think most people don't. Their word doesn't really mean anything to them, I guess.
Well, yeah, my wife and I talk
And
about it. We
then,
tell Abel, go ahead.
no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I always
Oh,
say
you
we
just
don't
saying
speak.
you told Abel.
Yeah, we don't speak words of death. We don't say, uh, well, basically everything we say, we mean it. That's it. So we tell them not to speak
Yep.
superfluously. We tell them not to
Yeah.
say silly things. Mean what you say and say what you mean. That's it.
Exactly. Man, that young boy, he's going to have some. He's going to be a well a well integrated young man. I'm sure, man. He's getting a lot of
Well,
good lessons over there at a young age.
I hope so. Like I said, growing up, my dad was a salesman. He was gone. He was an engineer as well. So he was on the road, and we were latchkey kids. So my dad was great at a lot of things and he lacked at other things. And so I'm making up for some of the things that I wished I'd had growing up. Um, and my dad did show me a lot of the great stuff, a lot of the stuff that's on this list. But I failed as well as a stepfather, and I've had to learn and grow, and I'm still learning and growing. But what his dad didn't want, his son will have, and as a grandfather, is to try to show this young man, this boy of 6, how important it is to be courageous and to be honest and be an asset, not a
Yeah,
liability.
yeah, it's good to hear that. And then last but not least, and this one's really important, dress like a gentleman. Coordinate pants, shirts, jackets, ties, belts, socks, etc. Appropriately to the occasion.
Yeah.
That one, that I notice is going the way of the dodo more or less in the professional world. Like it's become very, things have become very casual, like more so now than they used to be. Even like going to church on Sunday, I remember when I was a kid, men were wearing suits, women were
Yeah.
wearing dresses. You go now, like I've seen people in t-shirts and ball caps at church. Like
That drives me up the wall too. And I get this
that's
whole relaxed idea of going to church
yeah,
and Jesus loves you no matter what. And I think
yeah.
become slobs because of that. We've taken advantage of that. And I agree. A young man should be able to dress himself well and know how to coordinate. Here's your tie. Here's your suit. You don't have to have an expensive, Hugo Boss suit or something from Saks Fifth, but you need to
Nope.
be able to wear
And,
something. I don't care if it's from Target, but know how to dress well. And a
and
lot of young men can do that, but some men don't. They should know. Every
a
young man
lot,
should
a
know how to
lot of
put
them
something
don't.
together.
I hear
Yeah.
stories all the time from, friends of mine that have
Hmm.
companies and like job interviews, man.
Right.
First impressions are huge. You go
Right.
to a job interview and you're not wearing at least a sport coat and some slacks and some nice shoes.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
like they tell me like these kids come in with like some jeans and like maybe a polo shirt, but some I've heard of guys going like boy or men going with like t-shirts and jeans to like job interviews. Like who does that? Like
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
uh-uh.
Yeah. I was interviewing people for jobs. This guy shows up, total con man, big muscle bound dude wearing a t-shirt. And I said, "Are you strong?" And I swear, this guy, man, he drops on both knees and does double biceps thing because it's a furniture store. Can you lift furniture? And
Yeah,
I thought he was going to peel off his shirt and start flexing like Arnold. He says, "Yeah, I'm really strong." I thought, man, this dude showed up, no tie, nothing, not even slacks, just jeans and a t-shirt. That's
yeah,
probably all he had. But
uh,
make the effort, man. That's all
yeah.
Fred and I are
I
saying
mean,
is make
like
the effort.
a kid going to like apply for a job at like the supermarket or Shag shopping carts. Like,
Yeah,
okay, wear a collared shirt. You don't have to have a suit, right? But
right.
like, you're going for a job at a corporation or a company, you know, yeah, dress the part, man. That's first impressions are huge. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's your list, man. I liked it. I'm glad
yeah,
you sent it to me.
yeah. You're welcome, man. So, we talked about a lot. I mean, we were all over the place, but I enjoyed it. I mean,
That's
well, Fred and I,
that's how it flows best when you're all over the place.
I
I
think
think.
so. The format for our show really is as a coffee brand. We can talk about coffee, and that would be fine as well. But I think there's so many things that Fred and I are interested in that we believe are valuable, and that I hope people who are watching this take something out of it and realize that we don't want to just talk about coffee and guns or time and service because that was just a part of our lives. I think it's really important as life skills. How do I be a contributor? How do I be a valuable? Be valuable and help. That's so important. Because these young men are going to take over from us. We're going to pass the torch, and 20, 30 years we'll be gone. And we hope that these young boys, whoever's watching this, will get something and say, okay, this is how I need to lead my household at a basic level. Know how to be a gentleman, know how to grow stuff, know how to handle a gun. Right,
Yeah,
Fred? Yeah, man.
exactly. Don't be young man like Timmy
Yeah.
who
Yeah. Don't be
commented a little
Timmy.
while ago.
Timmy, don't know who you are. Don't even know what your agenda is, your motive, but dude, you could do better.
I just thought that was funny. Like,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
man, that was truer words never been spoken.
Yeah. Cool,
all,
man.
all these all these life lessons that we're trying to put out there. We have a large audience that's young military age males or even teenagers. I think I've gotten some DMs here and there from some younger folks that kind of appreciate some of this stuff, and like it needs to be talked about because I don't think a lot of parents are talking about this stuff like they used to, and our society is changing, and I don't think it's for the better, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't
If
know,
I
that's
were
just
to
how I feel.
if I were to give one lesson to anyone, it would be keep your word. However, I'm going to go a little deeper on that, which is do not promise anything unless you keep your word on that. If you're going to say you're going to do it, think about it before you give your word to someone, and you shake that hand and say it. All right. Don't just promise anyone. Don't just give a vow. Don't make an oath. Think about it very carefully before you promise someone, because you're gonna have to follow through. And some people may call you on it, man. They may hold you to it, and that can lead you down some dangerous paths as well too. So be very mindful about that, man. Let your yes be yes, or your no be no. If it isn't, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, cool. Fred, we good to go? Any last words, man?
No, sir. I think we covered all the things we wanted to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was informative and thought provoking. Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Silencio Coffee, and again, tell your friends. Good luck to you, and God bless.
God bless.